seen someone's cosplay and thought to yourself, I really want to do that? But how? Where do these people get their ideas from? How do I go from this to this? Today I'm here to talk to you about strategies to amp up your creative potential and also talk about this build right here. Let's get right into it. Hi folks, I'm Lady Delatour. Welcome to my studio. Before I get into my chat today on creating cosplay and amping up your creativity to create your own unique looks, I just want to say, if you are enjoying the content that we are creating here, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so that you get notified whenever a new video comes out. All right, let's start talking cosplay. As a cosplayer, one of the comments that I frequently get is, where do you get your ideas from? I never would have thought of doing that. Or even for people who do so, sometimes they'll say to me, I've seen that pattern before, but I never thought of using it that way. So I do want to talk today about some strategies for kind of freeing your mind and really expanding on your creative potential. And also I want to talk about this build here because I did have to do some creative thinking to come up with it. One of my favorite things to do as a cosplayer, if I'm not creating an original character, is to take a character from a movie or a comic or a book and not do a movie exact replica of the costume, but to put my own creative spin on it. And usually I tend to lean towards the steampunk genre and do kind of a crossover thing. And it's really exciting when you bring your own creativity and your own flair to a project, but people still immediately recognize who you are portraying. The first time I did this was Steampunk Black Widow. Brian was doing a Hawkeye costume. And although I was really new to doing this, people actually were picking up what I was putting down and they knew who I was, and that was a lot of fun. So I've done that a whole bunch of times since. I did Steampunk Lily from Legend. And I did, people really like my Cinderella. And very recently, I've started a Captain Marvel steampunk cosplay. Not quite finished with that one yet. I have some details still to work out. And I did a Beatrix Kiddo from Kill Bill. That was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that one. And most recently, this one right here. And there, yeah. This character is called Zealot. I personally had never heard of Zealot. I'm not much of a comic book geek, although my husband certainly is. He had made a fabulous grifter mask, and you can watch the video on that if you are interested. And he commented that I should cosplay Zealot, that it would be perfect for me to do. So I looked her up, and I had to agree, right up my alley. I loved everything about her look in all of her different iterations. There's a lot. She was in DC for a long time, and she has a lot of different outfits. She was also in the TV show Wildcats. And I just really thought that her look was great. But she's an old character. So there's no way to go into a pattern book and pull out a Zealot costume. I'm just going to have to figure that out from scratch. So how did I do that? Certainly, if you want to make a cosplay of a popular character, if you go into the pattern books at the sewing store, or you go online and look at McCall's or any of the big pattern companies, they have a whole series of costumes of popular characters. So it can be right there at your fingertips and you don't have to do anything else except make that pattern. And that's totally great and fine. And that's a really great place to start. What if it isn't right there in front of you? Or what if it doesn't quite match up your vision of what you want it to be? You want it to be just a little bit different. You want it to have your own twist on it. How do you do that? Well, let's talk about it. Rule number 1. Think about line. The first thing I want you to do is clear your mind. So you don't actually have to meditate. I mean, it couldn't hurt, but what I'm saying to you is that I want you to clear your mind. and get rid of your preconceived notions. Don't be worried about the color or the details. What you should be worried is the underlying structure of the outfit. What is the shape of the silhouette need to look like? Then you can go into those pattern books and be looking at just that. So you could take a top or a pants or a vest or a coat from a cosplay that is intended to be something completely different and make it be what you want it to be, as long as you let go of the idea that it has to look exactly like the pattern cover. One really good way to do that is to flip the pattern over. On the back of all of the patterns is a line drawing of where all the seams fall and where all the hems fall and where it all sits. And that's really, really useful for allowing you to sort of realize, oh, I could take this piece of clothing and make it be what I want it to be by making it be a particular color. It's great. It's very simple. So how does that line thing pertain to this most recent cosplay that I made? Well, when I was looking at the original artwork that most inspired me, I found my sort of favorite one was this bodysuit with a collar, kind of low cut in the front. I didn't want to do just the bodysuit because I wanted it to lean more steampunk, but I knew I wanted that neckline, and she has that neckline in a lot of different iterations, including the cartoon version. So that was kind of where I started, looking at that neckline and knowing that I wanted to do it as a corset, because again, steampunk, I like it to be a corset. And I just like corsets. They're fun. I like making them. So I wanted a corset that had this deep plunging neckline and the collar. So how was I going to create that? Well, I mean, this is a little bit more of an advanced version. If you're just starting out, you may want to work from existing costume pieces that you don't have to make any changes to. But I knew that I had this Yaya Han underbust corset with a collar that I hadn't done anything to yet. But I could see how where it comes up, it's a halter, and it comes up over the shoulders. That's what I needed. I needed that halter neckline because that's what she's wearing in this photograph. So looking at the line, obviously I had to do things to it to make it be more like the character. And that was a little bit of a process. So when you want to pattern hack a pattern, generally what I do is I trace out the existing pattern pieces, and then I start to redraw them in the style that I would like them to be. Now, I had to bring this up into an overbust corset with a deep plunging V, and I'm not gonna lie to you, it took 5 different mock-ups to get to a wearable muslin. I actually didn't start out by creating this one. I wanted to make sure it would work as a fully functioning corset that was boned and had all of the grommets set in. And so I did go ahead and make a wearable mock-up in this sort of leather vinyl material so that I didn't have to interline it. So now I get 2 corsets out of this one cosplay. As I said, it did take quite a bit of redrawing until I finally got the one that fit. And in fact, I still had to readapt the collar once I started this one. I like her a lot. So that's where I used the rule of look at the line in this particular costume. The next rule is, fuck you, I don't have to do what you tell me. You do not have to use every single pattern piece from a particular pattern to create your costume. You can take pieces from all different patterns and put them together to create something new. With this one, I used 4 different patterns to create my entire look. Don't be afraid to take from a whole bunch of different sources. I also used the same pattern that I used for my Beatrix Kiddo Kill Bill outfit. I used those bloomers. I self-drafted a bustle onto the back of it so that she would have some floof. It needs a few more stitches in it to give it some more body. I used yet another pattern. It was a pattern that had different boot covers and gloves and hats to make the fingerless gloves. And onto that pattern, I added a whole bunch of belts because she seems to have a lot of belts. There are 8 belts total on the gauntlets, which was a lot. And I used another pattern, actually a Supergirl pattern, to make the boot covers, and added some belts to those as well. So you can really mix and match from a lot of different places. I haven't recreated a pattern exact to the pattern envelope since I did my first cosplay, which is that one that's pictured up there on the wall. She's a really pretty Victorian lady, and I learned a lot following that pattern. I used different pieces of that pattern a bunch of different times later on. It is this one here. It's a simplicity pattern. I'm definitely not prejudiced against the patterns. I think that you can do a lot with them. If you're not a person who knows how to draw a pattern from nothing, they're going to be invaluable for you. And don't be afraid to redraw them to get the hemlines or the collars to sit exactly how you want them to. You just may need to do a mock-up of them to make sure that you've got it the way that you want it. Rule number 3. Now that you've cleared your mind out of all of the preconceptions of your character, I want you to shove all that stuff back in. I want you to close your eyes, open them, and look at a picture that you're trying to recreate and see what jumps out at you. What is the thing that you first see that you have to bring into this costume so that people will say, oh, that looks just like the character. I know who that is. Even if you're not creating a movie faithful representation, what are the iconic things about that character that people are going to say, yeah, you nailed it. For this one, in the Zealot, obviously, she's all in red in basically all of her different iterations. However, she often has white belts. So I went through all of the different pictures that I could find, and I found this rig. Yeah, that's so cool. Which is similar to how a little bit similar to how her belt looks in the cartoon, which I know is where people are going to mostly identify her from. And I went ahead and I recreated that. That I did do without a pattern. I just did it out of my own head. It did take me a couple of times to get the harness right. The first time I did it like this, I was looking at it and I thought that it came from the belt and went up over her shoulders like this. And then later on, I went and looked at it more closely and was like, oh no, it doesn't come up this way. It comes around her back and around her shoulders that way. And so I had to redo it. And that's the way it happens sometimes. Sometimes you do it and it's wrong and you gotta just do it again. And that's okay. The other kind of iconic thing was the deep neckline, which I talked about earlier. In a lot of the illustrations, she has arm garters and she has leg garters as well. So that's what I did to help create her iconic look. So the next time you're watching a movie and you think, I really want to make that cosplay, don't despair. You know where to start. Just follow the 3 simple rules. Look at the line, pull from lots of different patterns, and then bring in the iconic details that complete the look. I have faith in you. You can do it. Why don't you go get started right now? Catch you next time. Why? So the next time you're looking at a character and the next time you want to cosplay, but you don't know how to start, why can't I finish this sentence? Sigh.